Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the No DQ Live recap of AEW Dynamite, as well as my thoughts on the results from WWE NXT. It is January 29th, 2020. Shout out to everybody watching, whether it's live or on demand, and shout out to everybody in the chat room. I'll be reading some of your comments from tonight. Let's go ahead and get started. AEW kicked off with a recap from last week's show on the Chris Jericho cruise. We had Jon Moxley come out for a promo looking like Kurt Russell from Escape from New York with his eye patch. He said that the fun and games with Jericho are over now. After being stabbed in the eye, he knows it's serious business. Jericho is the type of guy, according to Moxley, that will attack you 5-on-1. He'll stab you in the eye, and he'll even punch a woman. This was a reference to about a decade ago when there was a fan that got in Chris Jericho's face at this live event, and Jericho actually hit the fan, and it was a female fan. A little bit of a controversy at the time, although Jericho was really just defending himself. You could check out the clip on YouTube. I'm sure it's still up there. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, is Tamina more over than Brandy Rhodes? Probably not, because anybody in AEW is over to some degree when it comes to the AEW faithful. I'm not sure if there's a lot of people in the WWE universe that really care about Tamina. Maybe there are, but AEW fans are very loyal to their brand. Then again, you could say the same thing about WWE, but Brandy has her followers. Let's just say that much. And she is one of the people running AEW. Now, we had Jon Moxley say that he's not a saint, but at the end of the day, he needs to be able to look in the mirror. And he lives by a code, unlike Chris Jericho, who, according to Moxley, is an insecure egomaniac and a bully. And if there's one thing that Jon Moxley hates, it is a bully. Hopefully, Bully Ray was not watching AEW. His feelings might have been hurt if he heard Jon Moxley's comments. Hoof-Hearted with a $2 super chat says, shockingly, Raw was actually better this week. Better than AEW or better than NXT, Hoof-Hearted? Let me know which show you're referring to. Maybe he means both. Who knows? So anyways, back to the Moxley promo. He said he will take out Jericho and he will take the AEW World title at the upcoming Revolution pay-per-view at the end of the month of February. Power Packers 90 with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Thank you guys for the super chats. Power Packers 90 says, Mox is so cool, unlike the Messiah. Ooh, little dig there at Seth freaking Rollins. Moxley called out Chris Jericho, and that's when Jericho came out and said that Moxley earned that spike to the eye for turning down the offer to join the Inner Circle. And then Jericho mentioned that he saw Moxley's mother backstage and said maybe he's going to give her a call later. Ooh, burn from Chris Jericho. And then Jericho asked the fans, do you want to see a fight tonight? Jericho versus Moxley. Of course, the crowd wanted to see it, and Jericho was like, you can all go to hell. Cleveland doesn't deserve it. Hey, I have some friends in Cleveland, so I'm not going to badmouth Cleveland. We had the Inner Circle come out, and then Moxley was told by Jericho that it's going to be all of Inner Circle if Moxley wants a fight. Moxley said, well, he's in his home state of Ohio, and he's got the people behind him to watch his back. So Jericho's like, well, you stupid son of a bitch, we got more people. And Jericho brought up some of Pride and Powerful's extra thug buddies. So it was basically 10-on-1. Jericho ended up giving Moxley gave the paradigm shift to one of the guys, and then security came down, referees came down, everyone was trying to break things up. Moxley took out another guy and then escaped through the crowd, And that was the end of our opening segment, which felt very much like a WWE opening segment. It went pretty long, maybe a bit longer than it needed to be. It went about a good 15 minutes, and it was fine. I liked it, but I still feel like it was a little bit longer than it needed to be. Power Packers 90 with a $2 super chat says, Mox is so cool. Oh, I already read that one. My bad. Sorry about that. Over on NXT, we had a recap of last week's show to start us off. We had more Ronaldo doing announcing, so looks like he just took off the Worlds Collide show. Beth Phoenix was there, and she did reference what happened on Raw with Edge being attacked by Randy Orton. We had the opening match, which was Finn Balor versus Trent Seven from Mustache Mountain. Balor attacked him right off the bat like a true son of a bitch heel. And then Balor picked up the victory with the coup de grace, followed by the 1916 finisher. And his chest was quite a bit bruised up from the match. So good opener here from NXT, and this was going on while the whole Jericho-Moxley segment was happening. It'll be interesting to see how the numbers are if fans decided they don't want a WWE-style opening promo and they tuned into NXT or not. We'll have to wait and see what the numbers show as far as that goes. Back over on AEW, we had MJF meeting with Butcher, Blade, and Bunny in a butcher shop. So these guys actually work in a butcher shop. So I guess that is their gimmick. They are butchers, literally. And MJF gave them an envelope with some money, basically putting a hit on the Young Bucks because last week the Young Bucks super kicked MJF on behalf of Cody. And that led to MJF being thrown in the pool. And DYEV with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, why does everybody pick on poor Virtue? It's because he's small and there's bullies. And that's a Jesse Ventura line on Jimmy Hart, he says. Hey, if anybody's got an issue with Virtue, you know what? Quick plug here. Tomorrow night, No DQ Review live, 7 o'clock Eastern. Come in the chat room. You guys got something you want to say to Virtue. Call him out on a topic. We will address it. Virtue will address any criticism you have of him tomorrow night live. And I'm speaking for Virtue here, but I'm sure he agrees. If you guys got something to say, come in the chat room, send your message, and we'll address it. Mo Cameron with a $2.79 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, hey, Baron, have you seen 3 from Hell? I have no idea what that is, so the answer, I guess, is no. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. So we had this matchup here between the Young Bucks and the Butcher and the Blade. MJF was on commentary, and during the picture-in-picture break, we had MJF taking a scarf from a fan who was just trying to be like his hero MJF. And MJF took that scarf and wiped his crotch with it. What a jerk that MJF is. Apparently that 3 from Hell is a horror movie. I am a horror movie fan, but I'm not familiar with every single horror movie that was ever made, unfortunately. Oh, sequel to Devil's Rejects. Well, not really the biggest Rob Zombie fan, so there you go. And wasn't a fan of the Halloween remake, so might lose some cool points from Virtue on that one, but yeah, I prefer the old school stuff with John Carpenter, but that's just me. And Donald Pleasance, of course. Anyways, that's Halloween. Let's move on here. We had the match with MJF on commentary, and he had a good line about the Young Bucks being good Christian Catholic boys. However, the only Bible verse that they know is Austin 3:16. I really enjoyed MJF on commentary here, by the way, and I'm glad that they got some good use out of MJF on this show by having him be the guest commentator. So as far as the match goes, Bunny tried to interfere during the match, but in the end, Young Bucks picked up the victory with the Dave Meltzer driver onto Blade. And then after the match, Butcher attacked the Bucks. Kenny Omega came out, made the save, And then Adam Page came out with his beer, and he literally told Matt Jackson, hold my beer. He did the buckshot lariat and took his beer back. And then over on NXT, we had an interview with Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne doing their little comedy routine. And Matt Riddle was like, everyone's going to see after they win why Pete Dunne is the life of the party, as Pete Dunne was just standing there totally with no reaction whatsoever. We then had Shotzi Blackheart, who made her entrance on a tank. I actually thought this was kind of cool. Something different. I like it. Versus Deonna Purrazzo. And Shotzi picked up the victory with the Senton Splash. So she's picking up a little bit of steam here in NXT. We had Nyla Rose versus Big Swole over on AEW. And Mo Camera sent me the super chat again. I have not seen 3 from Hell, so I have no opinion of it. But thank you nonetheless. I'm sure Virtue will have an opinion on it, so you guys can discuss it in the chat room. Nyla Rose picked up the victory over Swole with her sit-down powerbomb, the Beast Bomb, in a pretty decent match, I guess. I mean, the women's division just feels kind of flat in AEW, and Nia Rose is the number 1 contender for Riho, but I mean, Nyla was the one that faced her in the title match to crown the first champion. So yeah, it was okay, but I'm still not feeling the women's division, but there is a shining light, and we'll get to that here in a few minutes. Back on NXT, we had Keith Lee, come out for a promo. Oh, by the way, shout out to Noah Foster, who was in Cleveland tonight for the AEW Dynamite show, and I retweeted some of his pictures over on the NoDQ.com, NoDQ.com account over on Twitter, so check that out. Noah was there, and he posted some cool photos. Check that out. Keith Lee cut a promo about his North American title victory when he was interrupted by Damian Priest. Damian Priest wanted a match, and then Dominik D came out and said, Keith Lee deserves the title. However, Dominik deserves a shot and not the bootleg Marilyn Manson, as he put it, Damian Priest. This led to a fight between Damian Priest and Dominik Dijakovic. Priest attacked him and then gave him the crucifix bomb on the apron. As you guys know, the hardest part of the ring. Nicholas Easy with a $3 super chat says, do you like Britt Baker's heel character? I was alluding to that just a few moments ago when I said there is a shining light in the AEW women's division, which I'll get to here in just a minute. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Back on AEW, we had Kip Sabian versus Cody Rhodes, who still has Arn Anderson as his manager. I thought AEW dropped that. At least it made sense here since Penelope Ford was out there. So naturally, Cody would have Arn Anderson to even the odds. In this case, it made sense, but I'm still not really a fan of Arn Anderson being Cody's manager. I just don't see the necessity in it. Footage was shown from AEW Dark where Kip Sabian cheated to pick up a victory. And Sabian got a pretty hot start in this match, but Cody recovered right away. And then we had some shenanigans on the outside of the ring. Sabian shoved Arn at one point, and then as Cody and Kip were fighting, Penelope Ford got knocked down. However, she played possum and used that for Kip to gain the advantage in the match. The two of them started making out, Penelope and Kip, not Kip and Cody. And then later on in the match, Ford had thrown a shoe into the ring, which Arn Anderson grabbed and confronted the referee about this. He was very angry. He actually got in the ring and he threw Penelope Ford's shoe into the crowd. And at this point, Arn was just fed up with the referee and he gave him a belly bump. He bumped himself into the referee, and the referee was debating DQing Cody. However, he decided to throw Arn Anderson to the back. Crowd chanted bullshit, And that's when Penelope Ford, with the referee distracted, gave a Hurricane Rana to Cody. And then we had Penelope and Kip going for another kiss. They were doing this at ringside, front row there by the barricade. They were going for the kiss, but in their way, who he actually rose up from the barricade was Joey Janela. So he got right in the middle, and the two of them kissed him on each cheek. This led to Cody regaining the advantage, and he hit the Cody cutter, followed by three crossroads to pick up the victory. So a pretty lengthy match and a lot happening in this match. A lot of different things with Penelope Ford and Arn Anderson and Joey Janela. So pretty involved match. And afterwards, Cody took some selfies with the fans and the crowd. Pretty good showing here by Kip Sabian. Good stuff here overall. Back on NXT, we had a match between Dominik Dijakovic and Damian Priest. You know what? I would have held off on this match for a week. After that crucifix bomb on the apron, that should have taken out Dominik for the rest of the night. Like, sell that move as something significant. Remember when Kevin Owens would do the pop-up power bomb on the apron and, they did a big injury angle out of that? Like, they basically just went right into a match, which Dominik won, of course. So basically that crucifix powerbomb on the hardest part of the apron, the hardest part of the ring, really meant nothing in the long run. Dominik picked up the victory with his torture rack into a knee, whatever that's called. I'm not even sure, because keep in mind, guys, I have Dynamite on, so I'm not hearing most of the commentary from NXT. So at times I forget what their moves are called and whatever. Everybody's got their own little unique names for the moves. Looks like we're going to get Dominik versus Keith Lee for the title, North American title, at some point. Dylan with a $2 super chat. Dylan Hensley says, I'm not against faces having managers. How about you? I'm not totally opposed to it. See, I think managers, I think that they tend to work better as heels because, it gives somebody an advantage when there's an extra person out there. So naturally, a person who has some backup, that gives them an edge, and you want to root for the guy that doesn't have the backup because they're outnumbered. So it's just a psychological thing. However, I do think managers can be useful when a guy isn't a great promo. So if you have a babyface character who cannot cut a promo very well, then I think that could call for a manager who could speak for that babyface. Cody Rhodes is a great talker. He doesn't need a mouthpiece. He doesn't need somebody to speak for him. So that's why I think that Arn really doesn't serve a purpose. And quite frankly, I think Arn back in his day was a great promo, but now, I feel like he's a little bit behind the times and age is catching up with him. And I just don't think he can do a really great promo anymore. Maybe he can. Maybe he's got something I'm not seeing, but that promo he did a few weeks ago, I just wasn't really that blown away by it. And I'm like, Cody should just be talking here, not Arn. So yeah, it just depends on, if you feel like there's a necessity for that guy to have a manager. Why does he need a manager? That's the question you have to ask. Curtis Butler says, I must not listen to Arn's podcast. I don't. Hate to tell you that, but I don't. Bet it's good, though. All right, so back on AEW, we had a recap of what happened between Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone on last week's Dynamite during the Jericho Cruise, where she called Tony a shitty barista. We had another interview on the stage, which I like. As you guys know, I like those Nitro-style promos where they're up on the staging area doing the interview. Tony Schiavone brought out Britt Baker for an interview. She talked about trending worldwide last week, while Mr. Starbucks, Tony Schiavone, was holding the microphone. She then decided to give good old JR Jim Ross a piece of her mind. She said to JR to never interrupt her again. All he does is collect a large paycheck while everyone else is doing all the work. And while this is going on, JR cannot even pronounce the names of the wrestlers correctly. I thought this was great. She then said that she's detecting from being close to Tony that he might have gingivitis and that he needs to pick up a damn toothbrush. I thought this was Britt Baker's best promo to date in AEW. I liked it, and like I said earlier, I think that Britt is the possible shining light here. I always thought, like, when they brought her in, like, she was going to be pushed as the star. I mean, she has the look and the presence. But now I think she's really starting to come into her own with the heel character. And I think this has a lot of potential. And I still think that potential is there for her to be the star of the women's division. And yeah, I would not be surprised, as Curtis Butler puts it, if Adam Cole has helped her out with a few things and has given her some pointers. Would not surprise me at all, you know. Great source of information and assistance, and we'll see what she's able to do in the next couple of weeks. Moving on here, we had a backstage interview with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. The Bucks talked about working their way back up the ranks to eventually perhaps win the tag team titles, and that's when we had Adam Page come in and bragged about how they just got their nameplates, but he also had nameplates for the Bucks and said, maybe one day you guys will be able to use these. Kenny Omega then plugged next week's 8-man tag team match, which will be the Young Bucks. I forgot who they're teaming up against, but they're up against somebody in the chat room. Help me here. I totally blanked out on who they're facing next week. I know it's Pentagon and Phoenix, and then there's 2 other teams involved. It's an 8-man tag team match. If somebody in the chat room can feed that to me, I would appreciate it. And here's going to come like 50 messages at once from everybody once this chat room updates. But I'll mention that here in a second. Over on NXT, we had Tommaso Ciampa come out and did a promo saying that he wants to face Adam Cole for the NXT World Championship, and he said that Daddy's going to make sure that Goldie comes home. Adam Cole came out, and Ciampa had brought a table to the ring, by the way. Cole was like, who do you think you are, and all this stuff, attacking Undisputed Era like a coward. Ciampa talked about how he never lost the title, and he is going to whoop Cole's ass and powerbomb him through the table. We then had William Regal come out with a contract. Adam Cole got into the ring, attacked Ciampa. Ciampa fought him off and powerbombed. He delivered on his promise. He powerbombed Adam Cole through the table, and then Ciampa took the contract, and the fans were encouraging him. They were like, use your blood. So that's exactly what he did. He took his blood and he signed the contract with the blood. This was great, although we had just seen the same thing with Bray Wyatt signing with the blood on SmackDown. So that's the only negative, that this was so soon after the angle on SmackDown. And then Ciampa held up the title and was clutching it in his arms. Very nice moment there. You know, he had Goldie there with him. And the match is official for Portland, Oregon. Tommaso Ciampa will challenge Adam Cole for the NXT World Championship. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, what is your favorite Adam Cole match? Probably the match from WrestleMania weekend, the NXT TakeOver with Johnny Gargano. But there's so many of them. The War Games matches, I mean, his list is just crazy how many great matches he's had in NXT. But yeah, the first one that comes to mind is the match with Gargano from TakeOver New York. Moving on here. Oh, by the way, so it's the Elite. Wow, I just had a total brain fart there. It's the Young Bucks teaming up with Kenny Omega and Hangman. Yeah, total brain fart there, guys. I apologize for that. Versus the Lucha Brothers along with Butcher and Blade. So, yeah, I be dumb there. Totally forgetting who the Young Bucks were teaming up with when they were in that interview segment right there. Wow. What is in my defense, it is pretty late here, and there's like so many things between NXT and AEW that I lose track of things sometimes in my old age here. All right, let's see where we're at now. We had a video package from Bianca Belair showcasing her run in the Royal Rumble this year. Back over on AEW, we had SCU versus the Hybrid 2, Hunico and Jack Evans. Pretty solid match here. SCU coming out with the Lakers uniforms in tribute to Kobe Bryant. Pretty cool there from those guys. And Scorpio Sky, big Kobe Bryant fan and supporter. Babyfaces picked up the victory here. SCU later to Hunico. After the match, we had the Dark Order on the big screen cut a promo. And the guy in the mask, Evil Uno, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, said that the Exalted One is very unhappy with Christopher Daniels, and the Exalted One has instructed the Dark Order to target Daniels' family and friends in SCU, and then said, consider this your warning. I feel like AEW's trying to do something different with the Dark Order now. You know, there were just the 4 guys there, Evil Uno, and then the 3 guys that are unmasked, and then they're starting to build up this idea that there's a higher power. There's a guy who's the real leader of the group. So I wonder if AEW is just trying to slow play this storyline until either Matt Hardy's deal comes up or Luke Harper, his 90-day clause is up and he can show up and be the leader. And I think that's a good thing. I think that this is what the Dark Order storyline needs. Get rid of all those guys with the masks and have somebody with some star power be the leader of the group, the one that's pulling the strings, whether it's Luke Harper or Matt Hardy. So looks like they're dragging this out until they can get that guy to be that person to play that role. DJ Whitey with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much for that. And he says, sorry to go off topic, Aaron Buddy, but I want to let you know that I will be in attendance for the Atlanta show, AEW Dynamite, of course, on February 19th. Can I call in after? And if I order a no DQ hat on the 6th, will I get it in time? As far as the hat goes, the sooner the better. I mean, Teespring's a little bit better than Pro Wrestling Tees, but I don't think there's a guarantee you'll get it in time. You might, though, but I would recommend getting it as soon as possible. And as far as the call-in goes, we could possibly make that happen. I cannot promise that, but I might be able to make that happen. I might be able to set that up for you so you could call in and give your thoughts on the show. And I hope you have a good time. I mean, that's going to be a big show. That's, I believe, the cage match episode with Cody Rhodes versus Wardlow. That's going to be the first cage match in AEW history. All right, moving back to NXT, we had Tegan Knox versus Dakota Kai. And before the match, the footage was shown from War Games just to get the blood boiling, you know, so Tegan Knox could get her revenge. Dakota Kai tried to use a steel chair during the match. Knox ended up grabbing the chair, was tempted to use it, but she did not get too overworked. She didn't lose it. She didn't snap. She got back in the ring. The match continued, and then Kai tried to use her knee brace on Knox, and that's when Candice LeRae came out and prevented Kai from any more shenanigans. Kai tried to use a steel chair again, and Candice took the chair from her. And that's when Knox hit Kai with the brace and picked up the victory, 1, 2, 3. I'm a little surprised that this match and how this all played out was done on NXT. I thought, considering what they did at TakeOver and all the build-up and hype for this, I feel like they would have been better off saving this for the pay-per-view. Like, it felt weird that this was done on the TV show instead of saving it for the pay-per-view. So where do they go from here? Is this the end of the feud? I mean, Knox got Kai with the brace and won. So She got her payback. One would think that the storyline's over, right? Or are they going to do a rematch for whatever reason, and they're going to keep it going? So little perplexed by that, but good stuff for what it was. And I mean, it really does feel like it's moving on to something else. Looks like it's moving on to Candice LeRae versus Dakota Kai. We had a promo from Pac. He was in a park or somewhere. It looked like there was a bridge behind him, so maybe he's the troll under the bridge. Maybe he's Virtue. Pac said that Moxley made his bed and now he has to sleep in it with Chris Jericho. And Pac said that maybe when Jericho's done with Moxley, Pac will pluck out Mox's other eye. Then he brought up Kenny Omega, and he said it took Omega long enough to finally respond to him. And he said that Omega only responded when it was convenient for him. Pac said that's not how they're going to do it. They're going to do things on Pac's time. And he said he's going to start taking care of business next week. Really good promo here from Pac. I definitely enjoyed it. Over on NXT, we had a little teaser. Actually, we had a couple of these teasers during the show. Excuse me. Where these rings were being shown, these fiery rings with the numbers 5, 20, and 2, which is either May 20th, 2020, or May 2nd, 2020, or February 5th, 2020, which I feel like it's most likely for next week and not 3 or 4 months from now. Next week is February 5th. So what does this mean? Is it the return of the Velveteen Dream? Is it another surprise? What do you guys think in the chat room? Little interesting teaser here. We had Kaden Carter versus Chelsea Green, who was, of course, with her manager, Robert Stone. And you would think that this was, Chelsea Green's big opportunity to have a showcase match. However, we had the surprise. We had the 1, 2, 3 Kid Razor Ramon moment where Kaden Carter, with a small package, pulled off the upset victory over Chelsea Green. So what did you guys think about that? Wasn't expecting that. At least I wasn't. Then we had our main events of the evening. For AEW, we had Darby Allin teaming up with the Private Party versus the Inner Circle. We had a little bit of a face-off between Jericho and Darby. Jake Hager was out there, and he attempted to interfere, but he ended up getting a coffin drop from Darby. Jericho ended up picking up the victory over one of the Private Party guys with the Judas Effect, which nobody has kicked out of yet, just saying. After the match, Inner Circle decided the victory wasn't enough. They continued to beat down Darby Allin and the Private Party. Sammy Guevara came out with a skateboard, which was actually Darby's skateboard, and started using the skateboard as a weapon on Darby, and then took the skateboard and drove it into the throat of Darby Allin. What a bastard that Sammy Guevara is. So it looks like we're going to get Sammy versus Darby at some point. Seems to be the storyline direction. Then we had Jon Moxley come out with a baseball bat, and he cleared house to wrap up this week's edition of AEW Dynamite. Letter grade coming here in a few minutes. Let's finish off with NXT. We had the final match of the Dusty Classic, Grizzled Young Veterans versus the Broserweights, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, bro. They hit the Riddle end. However, the veterans were able to come back from that. They did this doomsday device to Pete Dunne on the outside of the ring and then hit their finisher, I think it's their finisher, on Riddle for a near fall. However, Riddle kicked out. And then we had the comeback from Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle. They hit another double team move to score the victory. Officially the winners of the 2020 Dusty Classic, the the Broserweights, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle. William Regal came out, big celebration. We had pyro in the ring. We had the big trophy. Nice moment here. And as a result of this victory, NXT TakeOver Portland, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle will get an opportunity at the NXT Tag Team titles. So let's go ahead and do the letter grade for AEW. And if you guys watched NXT, feel free to give me your NXT thoughts. The Cleaver Colin Andrew with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle have a miscommunication in Portland and start a feud. Any thoughts? Well, here's the thing, to quote Jeff Meacham. I like this Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle tag team, so I think they should keep it going for a while. If anything, I could see them winning the titles. Like, I feel we could be seeing something with the Undisputed Era where they start to have their falling out and they start to split apart. I'd like to see them win the titles just because I feel like there's a dynamic with these guys. You know, Pete Dunne's the straight man, always serious. Matt Riddle's the funny guy. I like their team. So I think you could do that eventually, but I would actually go with them winning the titles if I was in charge. So Shady Snake says AEW gets an A+. JSpin41 gives NXT a B and AEW an F+. Wow. Really? Curtis Butler, AEW B, NXT B, and Dr. NXT Scorpio with a B for AEW. Marshall Leonard says AEW A+++++, and NXT a B-. Nelson with a B for AEW. Game is on 100, NXT B+. CC Drink says NXT A-, AEW B. And Colin Andrew says NXT gets a B+. Flaky Anthony with a B for AEW. And Dylan Hensley with a B+ for AEW. I'm actually going with Dylan. I'm giving AEW a B+ this week. Pretty darn solid show this week. I enjoyed it for the most part. I'm enjoying AEW, and you know, what wasn't the best show of all time, but it was really solid. And so was NXT, as usual. Fun night for wrestling. So both shows get a thumbs up from me. But again, I don't do the letter grade for NXT just because I don't think it's fair when I'm primarily focused on AEW, and a lot of the time I don't have NXT sound on, so I'm missing some of the commentary and whatnot. So I don't feel like I can give it that really fair 100% attention when it comes to watching NXT. Ken Terminated by Google with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Ken. I appreciate it. He says, did you see the banter between James Storm and Aaron Stevens from Power? I didn't know that Storm could be funny as hell. Did you? I haven't watched AEW Power yet, so I'll have to get to that soon. I need to watch AEW Dark as well. Storm has had some funny moments. You know, him and Bobby Roode is beer money. Like, James Storm can definitely have that side of him, that comedic side. So we've seen it in TNA/Impact over the years. And yeah, I really have been enjoying AEW Dynamite and Dark as well as NWA Power. NWA Power has been a nice change of pace. AEW has too, but NWA even more so because NWA is probably the most character-oriented of all the shows. Like, the shows are more about the promos than the actual matches. The matches are fine, but, you know, there's a lot of interviews on NWA Power, which I like personally because I like the character development. You know, you build up, you do the interviews, you do the short matches to build up your big events, which is a formula that I personally like. So I just like the interviews on NWA Power, and you know, I like that intimate feel. It's a good show. It's a quality show to watch. It's 1 hour, and I do enjoy it. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for tuning in to the recap video. Again, tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern, and if you're watching this on Thursday, it's tonight. It's Thursday night, whenever you're watching this, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, No DQ Review Live. And Ken Terminated by Google with a $2 super chat says, Rift, watch Storm making fun of Aaron Stevens' gimmick. LOL, he says. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it, Ken. I will check that out for sure, and I'll have to get back to you with my thoughts on that. All right, guys, I'm signing off for the evening. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate your viewership and support. If you can, please share a link to this video. Tell a friend, any of your friends who you discuss wrestling with. Have them check out this video. Word of mouth goes a long way. If each person watching this sent a link to somebody, that could really make a big difference. So please spread the word. Tell a friend. Click on that subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time.